afternoon, everyone. In our last session, we all discussed the concept of organizational behavior. Why is it important? What are the foundations on which the subject OB is developed? And what is its importance and challenges? Now, we will go to another very important topic, that is learning. The concept of learning will help us in understanding how we may carve the desired behavior out of people specifically working in an organization. Learning in organizational behavior is defined as a relatively permanent change in behavior, knowledge or attitude resulting from experience. Learning is crucial for the employees for adapting to new environments. These days, a lot of changes are occurring outside the organization, improving performance and influencing employee motivation. These days, we have learning organizations, that is, organizations that are fast adaptable to environmental changes. This facilitates continuous employee learning, knowledge sharing, and skill development so that we may proactively adapt to environmental changes, and then we may foster innovation, have a competitive edge over others. Learning doesn't involve a single aspect of organization, but it's an output of an holistic experience. Before we start, let us go through one case study. Case studies in OB or in any other subject of management, they give you a real life situation in which you need to apply the knowledge that you've gained in class into practice. And these situations you will encounter every day when you will start working in the organizations. So let us go through one case study. Company X is facing a lot of problem these days. It manufactures white goods like washing machines, microwaves, refrigerators and air conditioners. The company's margins are under pressure and the profit and market share are declining. What is happening? The production department blames the marketing for not meeting sales targets. The marketing department blames production for not producing goods that meet customers' expectations. The finance department blames both production and marketing for declining return on investment and bad marketing. So, this is a situation which is presented to you. Now, we have to think it from a graduate management student point of view. The first question that arises is, what quality of management style do you think the company is lacking, and what steps the company's management should take to bring the company back on track? So, if you have understood the case properly, you all will agree that one important thing that was missing was coordination. Coordination is missing in the company X. All the departments are not coordinating with each other, and that is why they end up blaming each other for poor performance. To bring coordination, management should take few steps, and this is where the role of learning will come into picture. The changes that they need to bring are, first of all, what they should do is, they should actually define the goals clearly. Once the goals are established, they should be communicated to all the departments well in advance to understand its importance and the department's role in achieving them. The production department will know how much to produce, the marketing will know how much to sell, and financial department will know its financial implications. Then everyone will be on the same page. Managers should ensure that all the departments coordinate with each other properly. The individual department goal should be in line with the overall organization goals, and then everyone will work effectively. Wherever is the difference of interest, the managers should try and strike a balance so that they all work in the same direction. And for this to happen, there should be a continuous flow of information across the organization. Meetings between departmental heads, that is very important. Interdepartmental meeting of production, marketing, finance, or any other department which is involved in the case, it should be conducted regularly. And the problems, the routine problems should be catered to. Now, the next question that we need to discuss is, what decisions or steps should each level of management take to rectify the problem? The three levels of management, that is top, middle and lower level, should work together towards the modification of product and the motive of increasing sales and improving the work process. Now, let us look at the decisions taken by top management for increasing sales. So, that is the case that sales, they are decreasing. Firstly, what the top management can do is, they can give direction for modification of the product based on the survey conducted aiming customer preferences. We should know what actually the customers are expecting, and we should try to abridge the gap between what is served to them and what actually they want. They may, the top level management, they may redraft the sales target, they can make it more feasible, and they can also revise the incentive plans for employees in order to motivate them. They may also review the marketing and promotional techniques. Maybe there is some work to be done in the marketing and promotional techniques, which is required to enhance the sales that suits the target customer. So, these are the important things that the top management should take up in order to improve the work process. Now, let us discuss what the middle level management should do. The middle level management's major work is the interpretation and implementation of policies framed by top management to the lower level management. They should also work on the concept of right man at the right time at the right place. Efficient hiring work should also be taken up by the management. Assigning responsibility. Once we have good personnel recruited in our organization, another very important thing is assigning them responsibility as per their capabilities and competencies. They may work on the cooperation within team members as well as first line supervisors. This is also very important, because if the team is not cohesive, if they are not working well with each other, they are not gelling well with each other, then their productivity is going to suffer. They should also take feedback, and arranging the follow-up meeting will also help them channelize the workflow. And when we are talking about feedback, so we are getting some suggestion, some complaints every day or on regular basis. So, we need to bring about change in the way we are working. So, this is where learning will come into picture. Now, let us discuss what lower level management should do to solve the problem as we discussed in the case. Lower level management, they act as an interface between the planned targets to the actual workforce and laborers and help them to actually carry out the work. The policies are made by top management. They are interpreted and framed, and how actually they will be executed. All these things are planned by the middle level management, and the lower level management are actually in touch with the people who would be bringing about change, who would be working, and this is what the lower level management should do. They will also be responsible for maintaining standards and quality control by frequent checks and supervision. They should work on minimizing wastage and motivating workers so that they can deliver up to their maximum potential. This will also help in cutting down the cost. So, there are two ways of solving problem that we discussed in the case study. Either we increase the revenue or we decrease the expenses. So, decreasing the wastage will also help us in cutting down the cost. Grievance redressal can also be taken up by them, and this will help in building strong, motivated team of employees. Hence, we have seen the different roles and responsibilities of 3 levels of management that will help to solve the problem discussed in the case study. Organizational behavior case studies are such that they will have a combination of different aspects derived from psychology, from sociology, from social psychology, anthropology, etc. And hence, this subject is interdisciplinary in nature. And this we have seen in the case study also. Now, we will all agree, after discussing all these points, we all will agree that organization will work in an efficient way when there is proper coordination, proper communication, proper allocation of work, proper workflow, and very importantly, effective learning. Now let us look at the big giant companies that have incorporated such a learning culture in which they are continuously adapting to changes around growing and flourishing. For example, everyone knows about Toyota. They are known for Kaizen, implementing Kaizen principle. Kaizen is total quality management, where employees at all levels contribute to refine manufacturing processes and eliminating inefficiency on daily basis. So, you can very well understand that every day they are learning from their mistakes and they are rectifying those mistakes. They are then exhibiting the changed behavior, and in this way they are growing. They are always learning and they are working towards total quality management. Netflix, we all know, they have cultivated a high performance culture through transparent communication. There is a rigorous feedback system, and wherever the feedback comes, then there are lot many suggestions, lot many changes expected. In order to understand any deviation, and they focus on continuous learning. Google, one of the most coveted organization, it is also an ever learning and ever evolving organization, maintains an environment of experimentation where ideas are sourced from anywhere in the organization, supported by cross-functional training and collaborative projects. So, there are different kinds of minds that are working on a situation, on a problem, and they come up with something new, innovative. And when they have to implement anything innovative, they have to learn new skills, new work processes, and this is what they are doing. Apple, who doesn't know Apple? It is perceived as the company which is high quality focused. It perceives unrecognized marketplace needs and create products to fill them. It has established itself as high quality focus and high end innovative organization. And how do you think these companies, they are doing all these things? They are doing it by bringing about continuous change in their working pattern. Like this, there are many examples of such learning right from startups to big giant companies. And now, after learning all these real life examples, let us dive deep into the concept of learning in organizational behavior. And by looking at these examples, you would understand that the companies that were able to bring about change in them with the time, they were able to make big in the marketplace. And the companies who did not change with the time, they were kicked out of the system. So, we now understand what is the most important thing to bring about change, and that is learning. We can define learning as change in behavior acquired through practice and training and observation. All these things we will discuss in our coming slides. According to Michael Driscoll, a prominent academician and researcher, learning is a persisting change which is relatively permanent in human performance or performance potential, brought about as a result of learners' interaction with the environment. Now, there are different phases of learning. Let us discuss those phases. Phase 1, the first level of learning is attention. First, we need to focus on something. Without attention, learning cannot begin. So, this is the first phase of learning. Second phase is expectancy. At this stage, we develop an expectation or motivation to learn. We start thinking about what we might gain from learning. Because I will tell you that bringing about change in organization is very, very difficult. The HR department faces a lot of resistance to change. So therefore, when they are learning new ways of working, new skills, they should be properly convinced that these skills they are going to help them in their working. Only then they will be positive about this change. Phase 3 is retrieval of relevant information to working memory. This is very important. We recall related information from our memory that can help us understand the new concept, and we can exhibit our learned behavior in the situation when we face. Phase 4, selective perception. This is a common human nature that we pick and focus on the most important information, what we think is important, while ignoring unnecessary details. So, for example, the process of learning is similar for a group of people, but what people have gained will differ depending upon their selective perception. Phase 5 will be encoding. Entry into long-term storage. This is very important because once you have learned anything, then you will not be able to exhibit that behavior unless that situation happens, and maybe that situation doesn't happen in near future. So whenever you face such kind of situation, you should be able to exhibit your learned behavior. So therefore, this phase 5 is very important, encoding, entry into long-term storage. Finally, the information is stored in our long-term memory so that we can remember and use it later. Phase 6, responding. This is very important. In this stage, the learners actively responds or reacts to what has been learned. This could be answering questions, solving problem, or performing a task. This is very important, and from child psychology point of view also, this phase the researchers say that is very important. Whenever a child exhibits a behavior which is not desirable, so the kind of reinforcement he gets, either he will get a scolding, or he will not be responded well, or he will get praise. It will decide whether the child will remember that behavior, he will continue that behavior, or he will stop that behavior altogether. So therefore, responding is a very important phase of learning process. Next phase is feedback. Here the learners receive feedback about their response. This helps them to understand whether they are right or wrong and guides improvement. They can bring about change in their working style also. For example, if we organize a communication training for the medical representative, and we in that training program they were taught how to approach doctors and how to explain your product and how to deal with the queries. So, once they are into fields and they take up these projects, we can have feedback from the doctors to understand how they actually performed, and we can bring about the changes that the doctors felt should be incorporated. So, in this way the learning will happen, and we will be able to carve the desired behavior of medical representatives. Phase 8, cueing retrieval. In this final stage, the learner practices recalling or applying the information they have learned. This repeated practice strengthens memory and helps in better retention. We all will agree that this is very important, because for example, if we have organized a computer literacy training of our clerical staff, earlier they used to work with pen and paper, now they are expected to use computers to do their work. Now after undergoing 15-day training, and when they come back to their workplace and they see there is no infrastructure, so how are they going to exhibit the learned behavior? How are they going to actually make use of the things they have learned? So here the responsibility of management is to provide them proper infrastructure, so that whatever things they have learned there, they will be able to implement in real time basis. So these are the different stages of learning, and managers, they have different role to play at different levels, so that learning is effective. And very importantly, they will be positive about these trainings and development projects and workshops only when they feel that these things are beneficial for them. So management, they need to make them understand also. First, they need to draw their attention towards these things happening around, because otherwise they are working. So they have, people may have this logic, why should we change? We have been doing this since 25 years. So what is the requirement of us changing? So this is what the management should do. First, they have to draw their attention towards the changes around them. Then they have to make them understand that they can actually perform and they can actually learn new skills. And then with proper infrastructure, they should be given a way of exhibiting the learned behavior. And in this way, slowly and steadily, the change is incorporated in organization. Now, let us move on and look at some of the theories that are given by scholars, which will help us to understand the process of learning. Scholars, they have given different kinds of theories. Theories give us a guiding lamp, a way to understand how to actually bring about changes in behavior of employees in organization. So different scholars, they have touched upon the different aspect of human personality and the cognitive aspect of employees. The important theories given by the scholars are classical conditioning, operant conditioning, social learning, and cognitive learning. These are the different theories that are given by the scholars. Now, we will just look at one of them one by one. First, let us discuss classical conditioning. This theory was given by Ivan Pavlov. Ivan Petrovich Pavlov was a Russian and Soviet experimental neurologist and physiologist, known for his discovery of classical conditioning through his experiments with dogs. Classical conditioning states that an event repeated several times, it evokes the desired response. So basically, why we are studying these theories? We are studying these theories because we want that desired behavior should be carved off the people who are working in the organization. So, how can we get those desired behavior? So, one is the classical conditioning, and very importantly, it states that an event which is repeated several times, it evokes desired response. Pavlov conducted an experiment on a dog and tried to relate dog's salivation and the ringing of a bell. A simple surgical procedure allowed him to measure accurately the amount of saliva secreted by a dog. This is a very interesting experiment and very famous one, which has given us a major insight on the topic. When Pavlov presented the dog with a piece of meat, the dog exhibited noticeable increase in salivation, obviously because this was the reflex action. When he withheld the presentation of meat and merely rang a bell, the dog has no salivation, obviously because there is no connection between ringing of bell and salivation in dog. Now, Pavlov proceeded to link the meat and the ringing of the bell, and this is what the classical conditioning is all about. After repeatedly hearing the bell before getting the food, the dog began to salivate as soon as the bell rang. What he did was, he used to ring the bell, present the food, salivation, ring the bell, present the food, salivation. So, after repeating this process, the dog was conditioned that after every ringing of the bell, he is presented meat to eat, food to eat, and therefore he started salivating even when the food was not presented to him. After a while, the dog would salivate merely at the sound of the bell, even if no food was offered. This was a major thing. In effect, the dog has learned respond to the bell. How he has learned to respond to the bell, which was otherwise not related. So, in this way, the classical conditioning helps us to understand how actually we can generate the desired behavior. This experiment was with dog, but it has its implication in the organization also. So, that's all for this session. We'll continue in our next session.